Hey boys, what's up? So yeah, the "was up" is in fact in character. It's meaningful, trust me. I figured today I would talk about the recent line of boycotts. So if you haven't been living under a rock, people are piping mad about booze for some reason. Now, I personally don't quite get it. It's whatever to me. But I figure I might as well address it since everyone else on the internet is, even if I'm late. Mostly because I have to do my videos on the weekend and then bother dealing with them for, well, I do them on the weekend and then I just do a bunch, upload them and let them need water. I upload them and then, deary them out, at least for now, so that at least I'm posting something once a day. I just like posting daily. I don't know, feels like at least if I post something a day, everyone has something to listen to once a day. Yeah, I might start daily streams when I'm done working, so we'll have to see. So that'll start like maybe the 28th or something, after I will finish with all that, and then who knows where stuff's gonna take us or how things are gonna go. I'm just here to have some fun, meet some people along the way, maybe game with some gamers, But anyways, back to the Bud Light, or the "what's up." That is Bud Light, right? From that? I'm not sure, I can't remember. It's been a long time since that used to be popular. That might be Budweiser. I'm not sure if they're the same thing. Is Budweiser the same thing as Bud Light? I pretty much don't drink American tap water, since why would I? If I want to get drunk, I prefer Irish cream, or actually, drinking something real substantive. And so, I don't know much about this kind of stuff, but I do know that the boycotts are representing an interesting thing for, at least the conservative right? Because we've had cancel culture before, but it's never been, big enough to start destroying businesses. I know a few of them, you can take out, a mid-sized or a low-sized business if you can influence its customer base enough. But, we're talking about a major corporation here, so something like this hasn't really happened, at least from the political right? So it represents a unique, turn of the page, and I'm not sure it's even a positive one, really, when you think about it, right? So I've already talked for 3 minutes about nothing. Hell yeah. But anyways, so it's representing a turn in the political right of the country where, now the political right is embracing cancel culture as well as the left. And I'm not really sure how I feel about that in the grand scheme of things. I don't think it's going to, work out how people are assuming it's going to work out. I don't think there's going to be some, conservative renaissance now that they've bullied a beer company, right? So what's the end result? Where does all of this go? It's representing a cultural change, and it's the right moving further to the left once again. So that's no bueno, obviously. I don't think copying the left's standards or trying to, mimic their unstable and frankly deranged cancel culture is going to improve us. McCarthyism was bad, cancel culture is bad. Doing these things in reverse doesn't somehow make them good. Even if it's a political W, I would say, for, the conservative right. Is it really a long-term winning strategy? I don't really see it working out that well long-term, because what you're doing is basically saying, okay, so this methodology of canceling businesses because they, disagree or happen to promote a political message that you're not fond of, yeah, I don't see that as a winning strategy for the conservative right. If you're going for an angle where you're, pro 2A, or you're pro, a lot of these old school values, and you want to slow down the pace of progress and adjust it and curve, the wheel of time, in essence, more favorably to your juncture. Like, going about it by, like, trying to, ruin people's 401ks, I don't think is the proper way. If you're some Marxist trying to destroy society, debalance everything, and move us towards some sort of praxis where you can have your boy love empire, well, then it starts to make a bit more sense. But if you're trying to, like, restore Judeo-Christian values, bring, the West back from collapse, like, I don't see it as a political win. Me personally, I could care less if the West collapses, honestly. I'm probably going to be heading out to the Orient, maybe Asia, one of those countries that's, backing its currency with Bitcoin and stuff. Just interesting things are happening out there, and that's really the future of humanity is out there, not so much in the West. And the late stage decay we're experiencing now here in the West, I think, is just pivotal and sort of, endemic of the whole issue with the modern right. Like, there's a bunch of people celebrating this like you're sticking it back to some big booze corporation. And yeah, maybe you might take off, a couple percent of their earnings sheet. You might make them, like, fire their marketing team, and there might be some kind of shift back to the right. But it's just going to polarize corporations and further degrade the fabric of society. And I mean, if you want the fabric of society to degrade, perfectly acceptable. But at least the people that are boycotting this, I think, honestly don't. Me, I consider it a win for me in my political stances, but, I might be unique in that, and I don't think a lot of the people that are boycotting this kind of stuff would agree with, the kind of points I would be willing to make. So, it is what it is. I kind of don't really see this going anywhere exceptionally good. And when you imagine, like 20 years down the line, if there's like Republican beer and like Democrat beer and all this, at what point should you might as well just balkanize the country? And I think we're already way past balkanizing the country. And I think it only gets worse when you start, randomly trying to include some God knows what, some beer company with their, like, trying to appeal to the youth. I mean, it says something about the youth that if you're trying to appeal to them, the way to do it is with some schizophrenic person mutilating their body for your enjoyment. And I think it ties in with, like, I think the Mr. Beast situation where, like, one of his friends came out as trans and it's somehow damaging to his brand, as if, that matters, or this person's, like, transition phase has some impact on his branding or whatever. Like, it's the exact same thing where, like, you're going after, adjacent targets based on the political beliefs of, a certain section of it. Now, the Bud Light people said that their top-end marketing didn't exactly agree with the whole Dylan Mulvaney stuff, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't care. Either way, it's meaningless to what actually happened. But yeah, I just don't even really see this going anywhere that profitable or that interesting at the end of the day. If I wanted to see right-wing cancel culture, what would it look like, and how would it be much more effective and much more interesting? And I think that's a much better question to ask than just to discuss, Bud Light bad, because, featured person who, mutilates himself, Bud Light bad. Yeah, I mean, objectively, yes, as a grand moral scheme, if you're arcing across the grand morality of, history, probably yes. But if you're looking at this as an isolated event or as a piece of the culture war, I don't count it as a win for conservatives. Maybe if you're like an extremist like myself or an extreme left, like those people would consider this a W. And, I also don't understand the left, at least the extreme left, that's like, it's not having an impact, or that are not trying to make this even more prevalent. Like, if you're on the extreme left, you're like one of those Marxists trying to bring about the praxis, you should be cheering this on. You should be begging them to do more of it and further fray the country and further rip everything apart, And I think you should cancel the corporation to try and make things even more politically dicey. Like, that would be your angle if you're an extremist. But, outside of extreme politics, I don't think it even matters that much. And in reality, right-wing cancel culture should look like McCarthyism. It should be specifically targeted at specific individuals and removing them from society, like what McCarthy did. And, is that effective? Yes. It's much more effective than a bunch of people not buying booze. Is it right, though? And the answer is no. But if the right wing is going to embrace cancel culture, they need to embrace McCarthyism proper. So, for instance, like the executive that made these changes should be in jail, and that solves the issue, right? That's the way McCarthy would have done something, or how the old political right would have done it, if you want to return to tradition, as it were. And so it's time to, one, start mobilizing the legal system against these people if you're interested in returning to right-wing cancel culture. And, Trump did that through the judges and the elections and all of that, and the political left is doing it now. So it's perfectly fair game. And I mean, DeSantis is doing it with, jailing his political opponents down in Florida. And a bunch of people are all going about randomly going after people using the legal system. So I would say going full McCarthy on people would be a lot better. Maybe create a new department once, the political right wrests some sort of control out of whatever branches, maybe next election, maybe the one after, whenever they can get it next. They can start, create a new FBI that specifically just targets political dissidents and then, weaponize it solely against your political opponents. It's kind of a sad state of affairs where that's, probably the best strategy the right can employ in America. And that's probably the only one that's realistically going to save the country long term, as far as, going for cancel culture or going for this grand arcing scheme. And at the same time, is the West, if it requires doing something like that, is the West really worth saving if we're at the point where that's what I would consider a logical conclusion to going about things? And I would say no. I would say if that's what we need to do to save the political West, if the version of cancel culture we need to employ is so awful and so absolutely against basic human rights, then, let it die, as it should. At the end of the day, even as someone that's right-leaning, let the West die. Let it fall into degeneracy, just like it should, and let whatever comes out of the ashes of it make a new and better tomorrow. Because there is no fixing this internal system without some sort of violence, and I'm not really interested in inter-violence against America. Outside forces are probably going to bring violence to America within the next couple of decades, and they should, because of the things America has done. America is uniquely evil as far as its position in the world and its position in history. And it's uniquely evil because of the political left, because of what the people in power have done, not because of, slavery or whatever people will tell you. All of that is, water under the bridge at this point, and name a place where there hasn't been slavery in the world, utterly ridiculous. But the reasons America are uniquely evil are the same reason it has always been uniquely evil. When it abandoned isolationist policies, and this should probably be another video, but maybe I'll just dovetail it into this. Yeah, let's just talk about something more interesting than the Bud Light stuff. America lost its right to claim moral superiority not when we became a tin pot banana republic after the indictment of Trump. We lost our moral superiority over the rest of the world when we lost our isolationist policy, when America stopped looking after its own and intervening in the affairs of other nations. It stopped becoming someplace where that can be a valid moral arbiter, because then it became someone that's interested in the goings-on of the rest of the world, and someone that has political gains and political favors that can be attained from investigating and involving itself with the rest of the world. If America wanted to continue to be the world police, it would need to continue to also be completely outside of the spectrum of politics as it relates to it. Getting involved into World War I, absolutely ridiculous. World War II, even worse. America should have never entered into either of those. And, those new documents that have released that... Yeah. Yeah, I get it. These people with their loudness. I have my window open. It's really hot today, and I was out running, and it's a lot of fun, but, So, anyways, as I was saying before, America lost its right to be an independent arbiter when we started involving ourselves with foreign politics. And furthermore, we could have continued to be the reserve currency as long as we were not profiting directly off of European wars, European imperialism, or our own version of European imperialism now, where we've been pushing our own psychotic attacks on other people for no really objective reason. We just do it because we can. So in the future, I would like to see an America that's, once it's rebuilt after the collapse, returns to, isolationism, and it will probably never be the reserve currency again. The yuan is going to be the reserve currency, probably going forward. America is just done, and there may be some kind of war between America and China. There's currently a hot war between America and Russia. Those documents that were released pretty much state that. I'm not going to go any deeper into them. I certainly haven't read them or anything. Don't look at me, FBI agents. I didn't do anything. No, but I actually haven't. I'm just kidding. But, you know, if what people have secondhand relayed to me is true, then we're in a hot war with Russia as we speak, with American soldiers fighting Russians on the ground as we speak. And then how long until that boils over into a global war? Because China is looking at Taiwan. It's been looking at Taiwan, and it's going to invade very soon. Realistically, probably before the next election, just to further destabilize American politics. It would make sense to do it at that time, but I can't say for sure if they will. It's probably going to happen sometime mid next year if it's going to happen. Just my guess. I can't pretend to know what the Chinese leadership is thinking. That's just what I would do in their position. If I was currently Xi Jinping or Winnie the Pooh, I would be invading around, this time next year. After a couple of months in, suddenly the American elections are, swung by that, and it might be swung towards more isolationist. Like, if I'm China right now, I want probably, I actually don't know. I have to think about that a little more before I say exactly what I want from Taiwan, besides just to capture it, what happens to its people and what happens to the rest of the world when China takes over. That's something for me to think about for a long time. But I'm just a bald guy ranting in an anime-filled room, so at the end of the day, these are just guesses. I can only reflect on world events, but yeah. So Budweiser ties into, right-wing cancel culture, which ties into further degenerating the fabric and the social fabric of America, and then further, it's just continuing the downfall of a country that has been degenerating now for like 20 years, and started degenerating when it lost its isolationist policy. Yeah, and, there is no fixing any of this. There shouldn't be a fix for any of this. It's ridiculous to even conceive of fixing any of this. And at the end of the day, I'm personally hoping for a complete collapse, at least of the dollar, and if not of the entire industry, and then it being rebuilt back in its isolationist youth. What I want to see of the new America is an America that's basically built on the ideas that, we don't involve ourselves in foreign European wars. We, keep trade to a minimum. Everything is produced in-house. Maybe if I was going to run America right now, I would consider an invasion of both Canada and Mexico and consolidate this side of the globe as the capitalist side of the globe. Invade everywhere, get rid of all the cartels. Obviously there'll be some bloodshed involved in that. Oh no, how evil, but, if now would be a perfect time while China and Russia are, going to take the rest of the world. We can grab our half of the world and we can say, okay, you guys are over here, we are over here. That would be, the ideal situation going forward. Now, if that happens or not, who knows? Amulet of Chemistry, by the way, very overpowered if you're doing prayer potions. The grand scheme of things, I can't imagine history is going to look favorably upon us, or my bald head. Oh, God. Don't get old, folks. You're going to look like a golem. But, anyways, to circle back and tie everything together, the political right in this country are trying to hold up something that shouldn't be held up. The political right in this country are making a huge mistake, I think, by trying to push their own version of this obscene cancel culture narrative. It's not going to work as well as it will on the left. And the reason it won't work as well as on the left is because the left has no standards, and they don't care. And the right has standards, and the second we start, getting rid of our standards to try and mimic their, tactics and tools, is the second we might as well be the left at that point. And we've already gotten there, and the left keeps setting up these rules where, political prosecutions and all that are all acceptable. And then when the right uses them, we just further degrade the country. So the end result of this is just moving closer and closer towards that cringe praxis they've all been working towards. My Amulet of Chemistry died. I need more of these. These are so nice. Hehe, free prayer doses. XD. But yeah, so at the end of the day, you should drink Irish cream no matter what. It's much better tasting and much better than any sort of American tap water. You should probably consider, not embracing cancel culture and not saying, oh yes, we're going to try and disrupt this big business for, political or ideological reasons. It's not a good look, and it definitely isn't helping anything at the long scheme of things. It is just ripping apart the culture further, and it's also kind of cringe, gonna be honest. Kind of cringe, mate. And if you're someone that wants the country to collapse to try and make, some sort of new or interesting development from the ashes of it, and you want, that war to suss out exactly what the future of the American dynasty looks like, you should be all for this and you should be pushing it further. And I think there's a lot more people that are on the I want things to collapse train, but just don't know it, and their actions are guiding them, and it's like a subconscious will. They're like, expressing their desires internally for a complete destruction and bringing that out and sort of leveraging it against everyone. At least that's how I feel about things, and I should probably cut it there before I start schizo-ranting about something that's going to get me thrown in prison. But you have a good day, friends. And remember, stay healthy, go for a run, cook your own food, don't eat goy slop. Love you, bye-bye.